In this video tutorial, we're talking about the auction purchase information where the reseller buys materials and then on another screen they're going to be selling them at whatever avenue they intend to use to sell them. Now let's have an overview about the purpose first of all of this application so we understand what we're working with. The application, this is the primary screen and we'll be covering it bit by bit to show you exactly how it works. And then we also have at the top of the screen, let's cover the intricate pieces that are in the screen so you understand the usage of them. There is a app map. Now the app map has all the different screens that are, and by the category of which they are. And for example, this is auction group and all the screens for the auction group. The listing group, which are list views, and list views have itemization of individual items. For example, in this case, it's the listing list view of listings that you have things out there in the world for selling. Sales listing of the items that are actually selling and you're selling with pictures and stuff of them. Buyers, where you have buyers. This group up here is used to show the buyer screen. Over here you're doing the stuff you're buying for selling. Over here you're actually selling it and tracking all the information that's related to the sales part of it. For example, you can print invoices, you can print list views and all this other stuff. And then there's business expense group where you're actually following all of your expenses and tracking those and cataloging all the costs. So at the end of the year when you do an income tax, you have the information to present to either your CPA or you do your taxes yourself based on the information you collected for expenses. The next thing we're going to be looking at is what's called the Do Action button. The Do Action button manages a lot of the activity that's going on in your application as you're using it. For example, and we'll explain this later, to do a find is to take information that's on the screen or in the text field down here and doing a find and starting it to look for a specific record. The specific record might be in one of these action company groups that you create over here, and this is the action company itself. In this case, it's a police auction. But say, for example, you want to look up the police auction. So you start a find, it rotates the screen and puts magnifying glasses on the screen. You tap in, and then you put in what it is. I could put P-O-L, and I don't even have to spell out police. I can click down here and put it in. And that way I have at least part of the word for the application that I'm looking for as far as what record. Now we'll come back and we'll explain some of the things on the keypad up here, but for right now I'm just going to click off and hide it. And now I'm ready to do the find for that thing, and I can go up here to say Do Action, do the find. It'll flip back, it'll show me the record. Now you saw a quick image of something on the screen, and I'm going to go down and show you what that actually was. What it does, if you take this little bullet site right here and click on it, this is what you actually saw momentarily there. I found one record that matched. This is the found record. I omitted 4 records that had additional information, but they were not the record I was looking for, so there are 4 that were omitted. I'm looking at record 1 of the records. If there were more than one record in here, it would show. And then up here it says 5 total records, 5 total records. So these are the ones that are currently in here. We'll talk about this area over here in a minute. If I wanted to see them all once again after I did the find, I can click Show All. And that is also included in the Do Action menu, where if I came over here and said Show All Records, it would return them. And if I went back down here and looked at this, you would see now that all 5 records were returned to the current set. I can also omit records. I could show the omitted records, or I could flip back and forth between them. If they were omitted over here, I could flip between the one I was looking for in the set or all the omitted. It just reverses it. And it looks here, it says of the records that we're looking at, there's on record number 1 of 5. Okay, let's look while we're down here. There's a done, which says I'm done entering and managing data. There's a plus and a minus here. This one adds new records, and this one deletes them. Do not use these. Do not use those. They can cause all kinds of problems depending upon the screen that you're in, and this is why I tell you now not to do it, because if you want to add a new record, there is a button provided for you to add new records. If there's not a new add record button, don't add records in that screen. It's designed to only have records added where there is a new record button. I emphasize this because it can really mess things up if you do that. I'm going to click off of here. There is a way, if you're in a field, for example, if I wanted everything in that field to be bold, I could click on bold, italic, or underline, and it will change the font that we're looking at and the way it looks. I can cut copy, and paste items from, say, here and into something else. Just like you can go ahead and click again, like you're in a field, and you click, and then click again. Then the iPad kicks in, and it puts up all these different things up here that you can deal with, like cut, copy, paste, delete, define. If there's a word to be defined, share it with somebody else. As far as the text that's in there, paste text only or style. Style being something where you can add fonts and work the fonts and the colors of the fonts and so forth. You can say done to get rid of that. If you're on an iPad, the information you're adding here is different than an iPhone. If you're working with the iPhone, you can actually narrate in a blank field. For example, if I clicked in here and started narrating, it would actually put in the text I'm talking. And at the same time, if you are still in that field that you're narrating in, you could turn around, and there's a way when you click on the field and then click up here, there will be a thing that says speak, and it'll actually speak the text. So if I were down here and I clicked on it and held my mouse and then brought it up, on the iPhone, it would give you the ability to actually say the text in there. That's just a cute little thing that most people don't know is actually working. So let's go back up here and look. On the Do Action button, we have Next Record, which would move us between this and the next record. The Previous button, the very last record would be the last one. Also the first, I can go back up to the first. So this gives you a navigation within the records to go moving around other than the do, find, and find. And also down here, remember we said something omit a record. If I was looking at a record and I wanted it to be taken off as the records that are currently shown, if I went to a list view and looked at it, you would see that the record that I omitted was not shown. In the same way, I could say show only the omitted, and it'll reverse and show you all the records that were not omitted. So this is kind of something that's important. You could play with it a little bit and see how that works. Print Setup, I could click on Print Setup, but you notice it didn't work because on the iPad and iPhone, that Print Setup is not included in the availability of the iPad. What it does, if you go to Print, it's in the Print. The reason I have Print Setup in there is that the Print Setup is actually part of the Mac or Windows version of this application. So we have all these things we can do in here. We can get the exact records that we want to print for the current set or found set. Current record is the one you're viewing. Found set is all the records in the current selection. So if I did a find and there were 3 out of 5 records, the found set would print 3 records. Going back, if I look over here, I can show the number of pages I want to print, the range of pages if I wanted to range, the paper size and orientation and all that stuff for different types of paper. I can also come in and do orientation between landscape and portrait. I can scale it. If I have a printer that allows scaling, like a laser printer, I can go ahead and scale it so I can have a larger or smaller area printed on the actual paper that I want to print on. Then I have the maximum dots per inch depending on the printer. This is really driving this. I would click in here and I would pick the full, which would do as much as it can do. And then the other options, currently we're at 150. I would suggest probably doing 300, and you can see how it changes out here. And then we got this great little thing at the bottom that allows us to view the actual page, email the page we're looking at, or save a page. Now, if you're doing it as a PDF, which is awesome, you can say print or save it as a PDF, and then you can turn right around with the data and use it anywhere you can use a PDF record. Okay, let's go ahead and say, and of course, print up here is the record we're currently looking at as far as the dialog. To cancel it, we go out, and it clears away. Let's go back up and finish the Do Action buttons. We have Export. You are actually allowed to export, and it brings up a dialog that allows you to export data, and it's based on the field titles. And if you're in a portal where a portal record is shown, you have to go to the actual portal record and then export from the portal record. These are all standard records up in here as far as fields. If I go over to, say, for example, this guy, this is a portal where it has multiple rows and lines of items. And in a portal, you have to go into the actual record. So I'd say go to the schedule portal. Then I would have access to each individual record, and I can do a find and print those records. This is all very important stuff, and I'm going very slow so you can learn all these little things that it does. Import on the iPad. They don't have facilities on the iPhone and iPad to import. It's not included in the hardware. If you were on a desktop, Mac, or PC Windows, this could be used to import data back into the application, which does the reverse of an export. And there's several file formats to include Excel and tab delimited in order to bring in, and database files to bring them into a screen like this based again on the fields. You'd bring it in and set up your fields, and then you would go ahead and import stuff. Video help is a different screen that allows you to bring up a YouTube video tutorials that explain all these different screens. This is available on all the screens in the application to get video help on each individual screen. Support will take you to the developer's support site. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about, we'll come to these and explain how to use, but we'll want to talk first about what is a reseller. Obviously, if you're buying this application or considering it, you are a reseller. A reseller deals with a lot of data. And that data is basically about different places where they purchase items in the case of this one. And if you're over here and you're selling items, you have a lot of information about who you're selling to and tracking that. Maybe you have a website and you're selling stuff on the website, or maybe you're selling on eBay or some like Craigslist or whatever, all the different areas where you can sell things. First, the concept is in this application, and the whole purpose of it is to create a list of all the buying and selling activity places where you may be buying and selling items, and then all the related information. In this case, we're purchasing items for then turning around and selling them on the buyer's area. So what we'd have is a list of different auction houses or places where things are consignment stores, and you're going in and buying there, or places where you're going to auctions, or you're going to garage sales, or estate sales is an excellent way to run this business. There is a ton of money to be made from turning over estate sale items and then turning around and go, say, like to a flea market and sell the items that you want to sell locally, and or you can put them on a website or Craigslist or something like that and turn around and sell them. I spoke of a spouse situation. I'm going to come back and entertain that. If you have a spouse that wants to stay home with young children, this is a great business to have her do that. I know a lot of people that do this, that are buying this app from us, and the spouse doesn't want to do a full-time job until the kids grow up. And you can run this business and have a lot of turnover, and actually, in some cases, make more than you can make on a full-time job. And you can work the days and hours that you want to. And it's really important to understand that this is a very lucrative type of a business. Okay, so it's your option. Now, you can read about this. Now, we do give free technical support, and I don't mind talking to you about different types of things you can do as far as making money. But some of the big ones are, like I said, the one that is the biggest of most of them that I've talked to people about is going to estate sales and then reselling items that you buy, including things like books, furniture, and so forth. By the way, this application does include invoicing and buyer information in the list view, buyer sales invoice, just a lot of different things that are tools that you need to use in order to manage the information that you're working with. Scheduling auctions or scheduling things that you want to go to, or things where you're going to go sell stuff and you're scheduling that as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. Each record that you create, and this is very important to understand how this works, the auction application for the purchases are based on the individual auction company that you're working with. Clicking on any of these over here will change them, and you can see that as I move between them, they are actually able to but show the record that we created earlier for those individual entities where we buy things or consign things or whatever we're doing. By the way, you can also not have to run a consignment store, but you can put items in a consignment store, like larger items, to sell them, and then basically make a commission. And commissions in consignment stores, which we actually sell a consignment store app, are very, very lucrative. Just like doing estate sales, that whole entity and all that is very, very lucrative as far as making money. So this particular record is the auction ID number 1, and it is for the police auction. They're not necessarily in the same order because they're alphabetic rather than they're numeric by the value up here. So it's really the actual name of the thing that it shows up here. But this is the linking file for all of the things that are related to this main record. And for example, related contacts, maps, auction schedules, all those kinds of things that you want to use, and auction accounting are all in this particular thing based on this ID for this entity. If I were to go to another one, you'll see that this is number 11. And this one, if I go over here, it's number 13. These are sequentially added by the application. Now, we're working in a test app. When I send this app out, it will not have any data in it. You have to add that based on what you're actually working with as far as how many things you want to add in each screen. But you would definitely create the application by first starting with your purchase auction information, because this is really your inventory if you think about it like that. You're creating an inventory of the things you're buying, and then on the seller side, over here where the buyer is buying from you, then you're on the selling side on this side. You're buying here and selling here, covering your expenses here, and just listing information so you can look at it in a list view environment. Let's take a look at a list view. A list view is a screen where you go into the list view. Let's pull one down here. Let's say, let's go to the sales list view. You have an individual list view where it shows, this isn't really the actual listing view. Let's go to here. And this list, in this case in a portal, it's listing the individual items for a given organization. And this is listed too. And it's showing you the individual items. It's showing you photos of them. And I'll talk about this later about how this works. Let's go back over to the auction area and complete what we're talking about so we can go to the next video. There's also a category type or a list of different kinds of things as far as where this particular auction type is. For example, if I'm going to a police auction, I can go over here and look and categorize it so I can do a search, and it's police auctions. So I can search by the police auctions and not have to remember all the names of the different police auctions that I'm working in. Police auctions, again, very good place to find and buy exactly what you're looking for. Okay, the next video tutorial that we're going to be showing is going to explain all the things on this screen so that you'll understand them and how they actually function. And we're also going to cover the real quick thing up here. If you want to go to the developer site, click this icon. It'll take you to the developer site if you need support for this particular screen. Okay, the next video we're going to tutorial is going to be about these items and how to enter the data on the auction screen. And then we're going to talk about the auction track, which is that tab at the top. Thank you.